I have the pleasure now to introduce Kat Jeffries, Polish-born language teacher, teacher trainer, and translator living in the UK. Aside from her day job as a teacher, trainer, and academic manager, she runs a Polish language group online and face-to-face to help support Polish parents in her local community and across the world. In her role as Peach Ambassadors, she organised local training sessions for primary school teachers in East Sussex, UK, as well as local parents. She enjoys passing on her enthusiasm onto her 4-year-old trilingual son and his friends through music, movement, and love of reading. Kat, the floor is yours. You will talk about how to set up and run a minority language playgroup.
Thank you so much, Rita. Okay, so we're going to talk today a little bit about, I think my session is the last one for the day. So I wanted to be quite lighthearted and a bit of, more of a sort of pep talk to everybody so that you can maybe, think about setting up your own group and to promote the minority language that you speak in the area that you live. So a little bit about me. I know that Uta has said a few things. So I've been a Peach Ambassador since January this year, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Day to day, I'm an English language teacher. I train teachers. I manage a language school. I'm a trained translator and interpreter. I'm multilingual myself. I speak a few different languages, although I haven't been bilingual since birth. So I've always had to learn those languages myself. However, I'm trying to pass this love of languages to my son, who's soon to be 5, and he speaks Polish, English, and Spanish. I founded this group called Crocodile back in March 2019. I co-founded it with another mum who I met in a sandpit at the playground. When we realized that our boys, who were 18 months at the time, weren't very keen on replying to us in Polish. And so we realized that there weren't any groups around us that would help us with that. And if there was nothing going on, then we thought, well, we might as well start something up ourselves. So we've been running it ever since. And since then, we've also, so last year, of course, because of the pandemic, we had to move online, and we now provide these classes both face-to-face and online. And so I'm the one with the ukulele, the one that's a bit silly, and the one that plays with the kids. Lovely. Okay, so my aim for today is to sort of mention why I think you should set up the next minority language playgroup in your area, where to run it, how to go about it. So a few practical tips, how you can promote it so that you get a lot of people coming. I'll show you some examples of the activities that we do at our sessions. I'll mention the kind of resources you can use, where you can find them, how to find them easily, and we'll talk about the kind of doubts that people have before they even think about setting up a group like that. And what we don't have much time for today is running online classes, because they can be quite different from the face-to-face setting. And I'm not going to talk about classes for children who are over the age of 5. So we're mostly going to focus on preschool children. When I mention preschool, I mainly talk about it in the UK context, as children start school at the age of 4 or 5 over here. Okay, lovely. Okay, so why should you set up your next playgroup? I found this lovely quote somewhere on the Bilingual Edge, that you can't make a child speak a language, however you can set the stage so they will want to speak it. And of course, we know that it's not such an easy job, really. So the reason you should consider setting up a little group like that, first of all, in my opinion, is to support the parents. Now, I've met so many parents over the last 2.5 years who have said, I really want my child to be bilingual, but I just don't know how to do it. Or my child won't take any of the minority language from me. I need some help. What should I do? A lot of the time parents sort of, as they say, they think that they fail by not doing the right things at home. And so what you can do, if you have the knowledge, is to show them by doing when running a class like this. When you're running the class, you can simply give them examples of how to speak to children. You can give them examples of how to read books. You can show them that there are other parents in the same boat, to give them that extra confidence. I think it's also, it's also about passing that knowledge in a very unpatronizing way. So I'm simply showing you the games, we're going to play together at the group, and then you might want to copy that at home. Okay, I'm not going to lecture you for hours because you might not have the time for this. You might not want to do this. So that's one reason. Polish people are very, 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 very lucky here in the UK because we have a lot of weekend minority language schools, so like Saturday morning schools. I know that there are lots of other languages that are represented as well at other similar language schools. However, my issue with them is the fact that because of the way their insurance works, they're only allowed to accept children who are 3 or 4 years old or over. And that means that a lot of the time that crucial stage of sort of not to 3 or not to 4 is missed. And a lot of the time I see children who haven't spoken enough of their minority language at home, when they join that weekend language school for the first time at the age of 3 or 4, and they're just too scared. They feel they don't really feel like they belong. They don't really know other children who speak that language. They're the only ones going into this big scary building. It can be quite a stressful experience for them, and we all know that it has to be fun, it has to be encouraging, it needs to be something that children look forward to. Otherwise they will not want to wake up on a Saturday morning and go to that kind of school. So what I found is that because we've managed to group those parents together, because a lot of the children from our area knew each other before they went to the Saturday school, they were much more keen on going, and now they're actually doing reasonably very, very well, in fact. And I think it's also about creating your own community. What I found was that before I had my son, I rarely used to hang out with other Polish people in the UK or in France. It just wasn't my thing. I didn't think that I would be able to find like-minded people in the area. Whereas actually, it was quite interesting to see that the moment I started running the group, I met a lot of amazing parents from a similar background or a slightly different background, but the kind of people that I really got on with. So what I mean here is that you can actually create your own little bubble. You can try to attract the kind of people that you think you could be friends with, so you don't only have to meet at the group, you could also meet outside, and you will be surprised how many lovely people you will meet through that. Of course, the main reason is that you're going to create that extra source of language for the children. And for those of you who watched Professor Antonella's presentation earlier, of course, we know that it's much easier to maintain the minority language if you can have multiple sources of the language. So if it's not only that one parent at home speaking the language, but they also see that this is a living language, a language related to play, to games, to music, movement activities, or being silly. So it's a much more attractive prospect for them this way. And even if it's just a group that you meet at once a week or once every other week, it's still something that kids look forward to and they want to attend. Okay. Just a few ideas as to where you could run these sessions, okay? Because practical tips are sometimes the best. So in the UK, it's quite easy to rent rooms at community centres. Here's an example of one place that we use with beautiful stained windows, church halls, school halls, usually the kind of places that are funded by the co-funded by the council are slightly cheaper to rent, so you might want to look into that. You can look at cafes. There are lots and lots of cafes with extra spaces for rental. That's really common in the UK. So sometimes they'll have a room upstairs or somewhere at the back where you can actually run your group. And of course, the added benefit is the coffee and cake afterwards, or a trip to the park. We've previously run our classes in the park as well. There's your beautiful Brighton Beach here, where we, but that was mostly because of the pandemic, but you might want to do something like that, sort of picnic style, in the summer when it's nice and warm. You might even want to do it at home if you have enough space. This was us, running the group in between lockdowns last year at one of our homes. Of course, you might want to think about, whether you want to invite people into your house or not, whether these are people that you know, etc., etc. So lots of things to consider. Okay. How to promote it? Of course, Facebook. I think local Facebook groups really, really work. And anything related to your particular country, anything related to buying, selling, whatever, post a message saying, I want to create a group for children. Would anybody be interested? Please message me, or anything like that. And I'm sure you will find that lots of people will be. Look at a local delicatessen. We have lots of Polish shops in the UK. Maybe you have, I don't know, French hairdressers, or maybe you'll find Estonian butchers. I don't know. If you have any shops like that, or any services in the area, leave some leaflets over there. Let them know, because we all know that the word of mouth is the most amazing marketing tool. Look at weekend schools. Even if they're not in your city, maybe you could contact them somewhere else. Maybe they will not know people who live in your area. So tell them that this is what you're doing, that your main goal is to promote the language that you teach. You have a common goal there, and I'm sure they will want to help you there. If you think that it might be a good idea to contact some religious institutions, maybe some churches, mosques, you might want to contact them as well, because of course they will know people who attend their services. Embassies, consulates, they always want to help. There are certain, you might even get some funding from certain governments for running classes like that. So by all means, look into it. And halls, cafes, any other places where other groups meet, so leave a leaflet somewhere, see if anybody gets in touch. Okay, now I think it's quite important for you to decide what type of group you would actually want to run, because you can do it in so many different ways. You could simply create some kind of informal meetup group, and I know some mums around here who simply meet up once every other week at a playground, and they speak their particular language, or they meet in houses, or they go to the park and they have picnics. So it's something extremely informal. It doesn't actually require any preparation whatsoever, maybe apart from setting up a WhatsApp group or something like that. And it also means that people don't have very high expectations of what you're going to do. It's simply more of a networking event, an opportunity for the children to listen to you speaking the language, and playing with other children. So that's a very simple way of doing it. You could, of course, run a structured class, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, because this is something that we do at Crocodile. Here, you might need to organize a few extra things. Again, I'm going to mention a few things about that later. You might want to run some themed events like Christmas events, maybe some birthdays, maybe anything related to your culture. We've organized some in the past. Think about something outdoorsy as well, if these are the kind of things you like. Walks, treasure hunts. In the past, we organized some treasure trails for children where, in the spring we went out and they all had to find cobwebs and butterflies and sticks and things like that. And of course, that meant working with other children. It meant working with their own parents and trying to use the language while they're outside, performances, concerts. So, if you're very theatrical, maybe try to put some kind of show on. Maybe gather people together to sing some Christmas carols or something like that, so that the parents and the children can work together at the same time. If you're looking at working with younger kids, you might want to organize something along the lines of messy play, so something that infants or very, very young toddlers really enjoy, and at the same time that parents can be using the language, describing what they're doing, describing the kind of textures they can feel, etc., etc. I know some people like to run art classes or sports classes. I can see a raised hand, and I don't know if I should reply. Oh, no, any help, Ute?
Yes. Maybe we can have this at the end. Yeah, that we can, because we have a few questions and comments. Unless the person who raised the hand wants to say something, I don't know. Could you please? I don't see the person. Oh, it's Manu. Sorry, Manu. Can you please tell us in the chat or somewhere what your questions are, and we will. Okay, she put her hand down. So please go ahead, Kat.
Thanks. I'll carry on. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, what we do at our group, we run structured classes because we really want to include as many different elements of language work in our lessons. And so here are a few things that I feel always work. So no matter the day, these things always work for us. So this is something you might want to consider using if you feel confident doing so. And music. I mean, I personally really enjoy singing. I'm not Adele, but I really enjoy it. Some people don't, so that's absolutely fine. But children generally really enjoy learning through music. So lots and lots of singing. Here's an example of something that one of my colleagues does. At one of her groups, she has something called the musical bag or the singing bag, and that's this bag is full of lots of little objects, and each of these objects represents a song that everybody knows or most children know. So if you look at the double-decker bus, it's probably the published version of The Wheels on the Bus. Etc., etc. And so what she does is she comes into the middle of the room and she asks each child to pick an object from the bag, and then they all sing the song. So it doesn't have to be a scary experience. You don't have to do all the singing, they can be singing with you, the parents can be singing with you. But it's something that children love, and it's a much easier way for them to practice their language skills, to remember the words, etc., etc. Repetition, the fact is that every single class is probably going to be structured in a very, very similar way. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. You can have, I would say, 80% of your activities exactly the same at every single class, and then just change something at some point in the middle of the lesson. And that's fine. And young children expect, they want to know what's going to come next, and they thrive when they see that kind of routine element in their class. There also has to be an element of surprise, because of course that makes things exciting. Okay, so that would be your 20% of the lesson. Okay, at our class we have a puppet, and we have a suitcase that he travels with, and so he always takes something interesting out of that suitcase. And so in the picture you can see the kids coming closer and closer and trying to see what's in that suitcase, trying to find out what's going to happen in that particular lesson. Lots and lots of movement. I mean, toddlers cannot sit still, and that's great because they learn through movements. So lots of activities, lots of games that involve running around, falling down, sitting down, standing up, etc., etc. Okay, be mindful that not all children will follow your instructions, and that's also okay, as long as they feel comfortable in the class and as long as they're not disrupting the lesson completely. Here, I guess you have to put a bit of trust in the parents trying to manage their behavior. Movement can also be doing activities like this one, where we had a tunnel and children had to take little trains and go through the tunnel, then over the hill, and then through the forest, etc., etc. So giving them that opportunity to do some things, to follow some kind of trail. Just like in the picture, you can see the puppet of the crocodile, which is why our group is called Crocodile. The reason we picked it is because some children are scared of it and some children absolutely love it. There's this element of something exciting coming. There's this huge mouthful of big white teeth, and it's quite interesting to see their reactions. They kind of want to be scared of it, but then they don't want to be scared of it. They come over, they give it lots and lots of kisses. In any way, every single child builds some kind of relationship with the crocodile. You might want to pick something else, something a little bit more mellow. That's absolutely fine. But having that puppet there at the class, speaking a slightly different voice, always works. They always want to talk to it. They always want to reply. They want to give it hugs, etc., etc. So I thoroughly recommend it. Getting children involved. So of course, making sure that you allow them to come to you. Of course, depending on the current restrictions. Here in the picture, you can see me dressed as a locomotive, getting students to, the children to put different pictures in the wagons. This is all based on like a traditional Polish story. So getting them to come to you, getting them to touch things, to help you, to press buttons, etc., etc. That always works. Of course, you need to make sure that you pace the lesson well, and that will depend on age. So if you have a class full of babies, you can take it slow, and it really won't matter if you just do 3 or 4 activities in the whole lesson, because the babies will probably be on their parents' laps, and that's fine. But if you're working with kids who are anything 18 months plus, you will probably need to keep it snappy. So do as much as possible, short bursts of activities, get them to stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. The lesson needs to keep moving forward. Otherwise, they will get bored. Otherwise, they will start asking for snacks. They will, they will start misbehaving. Okay, so you need to keep their focus. What I find is also important is having a little bit of that quiet time at the end. So allowing children to have a snack. We usually give them breadsticks at the end. We play a very mellow song. We read a story. So something that allows them to relax after a whole lesson of moving around, playing, jumping, etc., etc. Okay, so a story at the end. Here's a picture. So I've got some videos, and I hope they work. I'm going to play you just a few different examples of what we've recently done in our classes. There's one video from our online class, so just to show you the kind of things that we do. It is all in Polish, so even if you don't understand, don't worry, these are very, very short videos. So the first one is an example of a traditional Polish song that we've adapted a little bit to add an element of like rhythm work. We use lots of musical instruments in our classes. And here again, you can hear me singing, but there are lots of other parents joining in because it's one of those songs that they recognize and they know from their own childhood. Let me see if I can play it. chyba trochę szybciej, co? Uwaga. Mało nas, do pieczenia chleba, tylko nam, ciebie tu potrzeba. There we go. There's another one where it's an example of something that we do at the end of the lesson where we want children to be a little bit more quiet, to listen to just one person, to maybe sit down, relax. And here's me singing a song about the autumn. How do I play it? Kosz kolorów miała listki, malowała bim bam bom. Jesień, co nam dziś przyniesie, pędzlem namaluje kolorowy świat. There we go. There's another example of something that we do in our online classes where the crocodile tries to be a bit naughty and a bit silly. And where I ask children questions about what color they can see. Can they see red or can they see blue? And so you'll hear children shouting answers out, you know, and this is exactly what we want to achieve. To jest niebieski czy czerwony?
Czerwone!
Czerwony? Powiedzcie głośno. Oskar.
Czerwone!
Ja prowadzę zajęcia o kolorach.
Czerwony kolor. Nie wierzę. Słuchajcie, czy wy... So, of course, some parents may not like that. However, what we find is that the children love the fact that the crocodile gets, you know, he's silly, he's funny. So this is something we try to incorporate in the classes. I'm going to include this in my presentation later on so that you can see a sample of a 45-minute lesson. So I'm not going to focus on this right now. I just wanted to share a few different ideas of how you can really get the children to talk, how you can get them to say more, to reply to you during the lesson. So again, I'm going to leave this as part of my presentation because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And just wanted to mention that there are several different things that you might want to consider, whether you take payment for the classes, whether you take your child along or not, because believe me, my child was attached to me for the first 18 months and that was not easy. And some ideas on where to look for resources, okay? Because there are so many different things that you can find for free online, and we've recorded our own CD with some fellow musicians, and this is something that we use in our classes. However, you can find a lot of free resources on Spotify or on YouTube, and there are lots of interesting Facebook groups that you can actually look for ideas in. Okay, if anybody has any doubts, like I can't sing, please don't worry, other people will sing for you. If you're not a teacher, don't worry, you can simply set up a really low-key informal group. You will never run out of ideas, just follow the children. People will come and they will like it, really. Manage their expectations, be positive about it. After all, if you don't do it, nobody else will do it. Right, that's all from me, Ute. If people have any questions and we have a minute, then I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Kat, for this fantastic presentation. And I think we could go on for more than an hour or something. And I wish that there would be some kind of trainings for parents, you know, who want to start this kind of language school or language group. And you had a lot of very positive reactions in the chat. Mylis mentioned that she created something similar in France. Laura Hitty, who is going to talk tomorrow about a similar topic, also said that in Finland we are just starting a project to support families across Finland to start and run language-focused family groups. The feedback we have is overwhelming. I just go very quickly through everything. And Elisa said, Well, thank you, Kat. This is inspiring. My daughter and I need a playgroup where we live. I might have to start one. And I guess you could actually do a workshop for all these parents to explain to them what you now showed also in the last slides, that are also the very practical parts, right? That are very important to know, the funding and where to find places and how to start it and how to not get overwhelmed, I might say. In the question and answer, I'm really excited to know more about your method. It sounds amazing. And do you have any connection to methods such as music together, is one of the questions.
No, this is something we've just figured out by ourselves.
Okay.
I'm an English language teacher. I sort of try to translate a lot of the ideas from my work with adults, and we simply are learning on the job.
Yes, and there is another question. Do you run different age groups? If so, how do you split them age-wise?
We don't just yet. However, that's mostly because our children are aged up to 6, but I reckon as they get older, we might. So right now we rely on the help of the Polish Saturday School, which is run on Saturday mornings. This is where they learn how to read and write, but we might actually explore other options in the future.
Fantastic. So it's more like a vertical group, maybe, where you have 2-year-olds and 5-year-olds together, or 1-year-olds?
Right now, most of the children will be up to the age of 4, because we run the group on a weekday when the children are not at school. So I would say all of them are sort of mostly 2 or 3 years old.
Perfect. Thank you. And there is another question from Katia. How do you react if children talk to each other in the majority language all the time? Because this happens, right? They are living in a context where English is the main language. And how do you make them speak in the target language?
Most of the kids that come to these classes speak to me in English. They don't want to speak Polish right at the start. And actually, I've had a few cases recently where it's taken them 2 years to actually start replying to their parents in Polish, and now they do. It's because they've needed that time to create a very positive association with the language. The parents have also really needed to switch to being, to speaking to their kids in the minority language regularly, because sometimes they don't. Sometimes they find it extremely difficult when their partners don't speak the minority language. So I think it takes time, but as long as you paraphrase whatever the children say, as long as you make it fun, you teach them songs, they will at least go home and sing a song, and that's fine,
And I think here you emphasize a very important part of these groups. It's not only for the children, it's also for the parents to get encouraged to maintain their languages and to pass it on, and not to give up, because you see the other parents are struggling as well. I talk from experience. So thank you so much, Kat, for this fantastic presentation and for all these ideas and suggestions that you have. I'm sure that many will try to contact you and maybe continue this conversation. So thank you very much.